Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, presented by Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. Got some fun afternoon games coming up today for week number 7. Jets at Broncos, and Brett Rippon right the ship for Denver. Texans at Raiders, should be an interesting one there from a fantasy perspective. Chiefs and 49ers, you got everybody's favorite matchup, Christian McCaffrey against Isaiah Pacheco. And the Seahawks and the Chargers should be fun. Lots of offense expected in that game based on how the defenses have looked of late. Let's talk about some props for those games. And joining us now here on FFT, it's Emory Hunt. So, Emory, let's start with the game between the Jets and the Broncos. What's the prop you're looking at in that matchup?
Oh, it's tough to find one that you like based off who's quarterbacking for both teams. So I'm going to go to my favorite position, the running back position, and attack total yards. And Michael Carter going over 39.5 total yards. I feel like screen plays are safe calls and the right calls for Zach Wilson until he gets a little bit more confident in throwing the ball down the field, until Robert Saleh gets more confident in letting him throw the football down the field. It's going to be a lot of Breece Hall, a lot of Michael Carter. Both are excellent backs. I look for him to go over that total yards number.
Could be an interesting one, especially with Elijah Moore not playing in this game, so maybe a few additional targets for the running backs, if they throw at all, because we've seen it's just a lot of running for this team, and they've been fantastic at it with Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Next game that we're looking at here is the Texans and the Raiders, so should be a fun one here with how these offenses are operating. The run game for the Texans, the passing game for the Raiders, as well as Josh Jacobs. So what's the prop you're looking at in this matchup?
You know, I spent a lot of time talking about how Devontae Adams will probably lead the league in receiving this weekend. And it's going to be like that movie Necessary Roughness, where, remember, the guy went in motion and the entire defense went along with him and followed the guy in motion. I feel like Hunter Renfrow, because of all was missing for the Raiders and because of all the attention Adams is going to see, he's going to go over 43.5 receiving yards. I know it's not a lot, but I feel like he's going to get a lot of these 4-yard receptions. They're going to add up over the course of a game, and he's going to barely get over this number, but this is the prop I like in this matchup between both offenses.
He's only done that once so far this season, but that was in the game where he suffered the concussion, missed 2 games with the concussion, so he's been a little bit banged up. But the last time he had over 6 targets, which you would anticipate maybe happening because no Darren Waller, he had 59 receiving yards. So I think this is a good prop to play, and hopefully Renfrow is healthy, good to go in this matchup as we expect. Chiefs and 49ers, everybody's excited about this one because you got McCaffrey now in San Francisco, some changes for the Chiefs with Isaiah Pacheco now starting. So is there a prop for the running backs for you again in this one, or are you looking a different direction?
I guess you could kind of call it a running back. I know everybody's focused on Christian McCaffrey and Isaiah Pacheco Dickerson out there, and what he does, and they expect him to run the football like it's 1985. But here's the thing. Kyle Juszczyk going over 11.5 receptions. I feel like he's the forgotten man in this offense. And again, in all jokes aside, with all the focus being on the skill players, Pacheco, McCaffrey, the receivers, Kelsey, I feel like it's prime for a guy like Juszczyk to have a big day. We saw him have a big reception last weekend. I think it's going to be the matchup here for him today to have that big game, so to speak, to go over 11.5 yards receiving. I know it's not a lot, but I feel like Kyle Juszczyk is a big playmaker. I expect him to make at least one big play in this game.
4 straight games over this number. So, even with all the Mouse defeat in San Francisco, this is still a guy that they love. I go back a few Pro Bowls ago, right when they got Jimmy Garoppolo, and Kyle Juszczyk was just so excited just to talk to anybody in the media. And so I think he's just excited to get on the field with all these stars. They sent out, I forget who it was, look at all the playmakers in San Francisco. He was left off. And so I think it's going to be fun to see him get that one big play. Maybe he finds the end zone. That wheel route that they like to do with him is always good for this prop. So he will probably go over this for the 5th game in a row. Let's talk about the Seahawks and the Chargers. So a lot of play here in terms of what we're looking at for the receiving course here with some guys potentially in and out. Are the receivers prop that you're looking at, or more of a running back prop, or maybe a quarterback prop in this one?
Listen, hear me out. I know I tend to focus on the running backs. I'm not biased for the position, but this is fantasy football we're talking about. So you got to focus on guys that can touch the football. And this one I thought was surprising because I felt like it was low, but when you watch the trends of Austin Eckler going over 13.5 rush attempts, he's been skating very thinly on this line. He's been getting 14, 14, 15. So I'm banking on the fact that the Chargers realize their best bet until everyone gets fully healthy out there at the receiving core. Lean on Austin Eckler. He's someone that can do a lot of great things the more times you give him the football. Even though he's not a volume guy, I think in the run game, especially against this aggressive Seattle defense, I'm expecting a lot of sprint draw plays, a lot of plays where you're going to try to take advantage of that over-aggressive front, going over 13.5 rush attempts, maybe by 1 or maybe by 2, but he's going to go over this number if they want to have a chance to win.
It makes a lot of sense. Like you said, the injuries to the wide receiver position, Joshua Palmer not going to play. They have their bye week coming up, so he gets additional rest if they have to overwork him a little bit. And there is no Joshua Kelly, so as much as we see maybe Sony Michel filling that role, if Michel struggles, we could see just a little bit more put on Austin Eckler's plate. So there's a lot to like about that prop. And as always, we like when you give overs because the fantasy managers love that because we expect some big points because typically you are correct when it comes to these props. Emory, we appreciate your time as always. Let's recap your picks here and show everybody the props that you're playing. So you like Michael Carter over his total yards in the game between the Jets and the Broncos. You like Hunter Renfrow over his receiving yards prop, and again, he's expected to play, so we're excited about that. Kyle Juszczyk to go over 11.5 receiving yards, so even though Christian McCaffrey's there and all the mouths to feed, Juszczyk 4 straight games over that number, hopefully 5 straight games for Emory's prop here. And Austin Eckler over 13.5 rushing attempts. Feed the kid, feed the best running back in fantasy right now. Surprising that he's only doing what he's doing despite the low attempts, but fantastic in the passing game. Should have some additional carries because of Joshua Kelly's injury in the Chargers' backfield.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.